Let's go, Rider Nation.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. It's a feeling now. Hit 'em high, hit 'em low. 'Cause we're dealing now. Everybody's giving it all they got. 'Cause we're ready.
This is the Piffles podcast, your Saskatchewan Roughriders fan podcast. Thanks so much for joining us again this week. As always, you got me. I'm Alex.
I'm Steve.
And I'm going to stop branding myself as an all-star. I'm going to be an all-podcast.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever, Greg.
And it makes no sense the CFL is doing it either, but we'll definitely talk about it because
We'll talk about that. Because
the dumbest thing I came across today, and I've got Bomber fans in my feed again.
well, you kind of deserve that, to be honest. It's not like you're causing trouble or anything. Not you.
They picked a fight. I'm going to finish it. Let's put it that way.
You can give us a follow on X at PifflesPod. I'm at RealAlexD.
I'm at Safamod.
And as always, I do not need nor want your pity follows at Greg on Sports, especially if you're on the east side of the Saskatchewan-Manitoba border.
Yeah,
Go
yet
away.
you still get them. I have no idea why. I barely follow you most of the time. Why everybody else does. I don't know.
Shrug.
I follow him to
thanks
make him feel good, but I mute him.
Smart plan.
Smart plan. Thanks for listening on your favorite podcast platform, watching on YouTube, watching on SaskTel Max TV on demand. We appreciate that. Of course, Piffles Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sask Drive in Regina. And I did stop there today, got myself a blizzard in the afternoon. And I walked in and I was like, hey, well, I'm going to get the turtles with pecans because that just sounds perfect. Big giant sign on the right as you walk in, on the one on Elphinstone and Sask Drive. And it was the Reese's Extreme. And I'm like, yep, you got me. You got me. So.
And they say visual advertising doesn't work.
Right.
We went for blizzards after Scarlett's gymnastics the other day, and I had the strawberry cheesecake. I went in expecting to get the pumpkin pie because I've given up my war on pumpkin spice in summer. But you can't go wrong with a grape.
Oh, I had the French silk pie the other night, and God, it's still as good as I remember it.
So there you go. Head on out to Dairy Queen, get a blizzard, and enjoy. But we got a lot to talk about. The Banjo Bowl, or is it the Labor Day rematch? That's going to be part of the discussion coming up. Let's get to the opening kickoff. All right, so the Riders lose again, 26-21 in the Banjo Bowl, dropping the record to 5-7-1. I will say this, that it was close. They were in it till the end. They didn't lose by 40 some odd points again this year. Over the last 4 previous Banjo Bowls, the closest game was 24 points. So the fact that they were in this one until the very end, even though I expected them to lose, I want to say happy, but happier than I have been the last few years. They found a way to stay in this game. They took the crowd out of it in the first and second quarters. But another loss ultimately is what it is. And I don't even, I'm at a loss of words to say about this team right now. Like, I don't know what to make of this team. So, Greg, you were watching the game on TV. You weren't able to be there this year at the Banjo Bowl, but what did you see on the game on the TV that stuck out for you?
This team just finds new and creative ways to like shoot off their own foot. And it's not even their fault sometimes. Like that slip of the interception. Keyshawn Johnson. Perfect route, perfect throw, and he just blew a wheel coming around that corner. It is just mind-boggling the small errors that keep this team from winning. And I'm running out of words too, because this team, and we have always said your record is who you are. and the record is who this Rider team is. But they play like they should be better, but they're not. And I don't know if it's mental or what. They just can't seem to get over that hump in these tight games.
And you talked about it, the slip by Keyshawn Johnson. That was a theme basically from the opening kickoff all the way through the game. I was sitting next to Josh Hunt, and him and I were basically counting back and forth the number of people that were falling all over the field, and it was constant. And it led to big plays over and over again, either interceptions on our end or longer plays for Winnipeg. That's a problem. That's an equipment problem. There's no way that is anything but when you see 20 guys hitting the turf on a regular basis. And that to me is just yet another notch on the something new is going wrong to lead to these small 2, 3, 4, 5 point losses that we're seemingly collecting like Pokemon.
And that start of the game, that was, credit to the defense and then the offense after to bounce back, because after a block punt, after the interception, only being down, 10-0, it could have been a lot worse. But they bounced back right away. And there was a really good drive by Trevor Harris in the offense to score a touchdown and get back into it. So this team does show fight. They show resiliency, and that's something that we haven't seen in the last couple of years. So to me, that's the difference between this year's version of the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the one from the last couple of years that we've seen, is when adversity hits, they don't fold. And that's something that we can be proud of. It really is. But these 3, 4, 5 mistakes in the game, they're not good enough to overcome those. And yeah, I guess that's who they are. But it's frustrating when you start 5-1, and especially us here, you talk so much smack about Winnipeg, even though I knew they were going to turn it around.
No.
Well, not you, Greg. You don't talk any smack about the Bombers.
Never.
I did a lot, and now I'm eating that crow. But I don't know what happened, because we can't really blame the injuries, because other guys have stepped up. Yeah, the O-line got decimated. The O-line's still playing really, really good, considering they're basically on their third strings. So it's just the 2 interceptions. The first one on that slip, like that was a good route. Whether it would have been caught or not, doesn't matter. But the second interception at the end of the game, Trevor Harris is trying to push the ball down the field. Horrible read, which, don't get me wrong, that he's thrown into triple coverage. Should not have thrown that ball. Throw that ball away and try on third down. But regardless, they're just not good enough to overcome that. And that's where they are. And these mistakes, the wheel route, the perfect pass by Trevor Harris to Frankie Hickson. Now, we were in the other end zone at this game. The ball was going away from us, and you couldn't really tell from our angle live if that hit him. I was like, he dropped it 100%, like he was gone. And then they showed the replay. Yep, that was a touchdown. 100% that was a touchdown. Riders probably win the game if Frankie Hickson can catch a ball. And the drops on this team all season long from everyone's been fighting it at some point, and just I don't know. Like, is it coaching? Is it the players? Like, I don't know what's wrong with this team. It's not like they're playing awful football. They have 3 or 4 minutes of bad play, and the rest of the game they're fine. But it's those 4 minutes that just kill them.
I really think in some situations, especially on the receivers, they're trying to do too much. Instead of catching the ball, focusing on what they need to do, they're too busy worrying about, we need to score, we need to do this, I need to make this play. Like, MLS made some nice catches early in the game, but when the game was getting tighter and he needed to make plays, he just couldn't, because I think it was in his head. It feels like at this point it's all becoming mental with these guys. Trevor Harris is trying to make passes he shouldn't be making. Receivers aren't catching balls. Hickson is making one too many moves and getting tackled. They need to stick to the basics, and I know that seems so dumb, but it's so simple. But at this point, they're overcomplicated. Whatever they're doing is not working. They just need to try to simplify it.
We're seeing it week in and week out. They're the better team for 50 to 55 minutes of a lot of these games, or at least super competitive 50 to 55 minutes. If they manage to clean that up and get a full 60 minutes of football in, there's no question this team can beat honestly anybody in the league. The fact that they've been close with Montreal, they've been close with BC, they've been close with Toronto. It seems like over and over again they're fighting these battles and they're getting close. They just can't play that full 60 minutes, and it. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. I'm with you on that, Alex.
And then the one thing that bugged me in that game was the a 2nd and 9 play call near the end of the game, the shovel pass to Keen Schaefer-Baker. I don't know what Mark Mueller was thinking there, trying to catch Winnipeg's defense off guard. I don't know if that was the plan, but just a bad play call. And again, something that it sets up a bad, or a punt, and then Winnipeg goes and kicks a field goal, changes it to where the Riders need to go for a touchdown. So it's just these little things compound, and then there's an L, right? So, but the defense did play pretty solid in this game. I didn't expect them to play as well as they did, other than a couple of plays, really. They were good. I was disappointed they didn't get a lot of pressure on Zach Claros again, but kudos to Winnipeg's coaching and their O-line. Same thing in the Labor Day game. It was quick throws. It was running the ball. It was just making sure that Zach Claros was not pressured. And I mean, other than the first play when Carney got a sack there was almost nothing from the defensive line in terms of getting pressure. So, but overall, I was pretty happy with the defense, and they were put in bad positions to start the game. So you eliminate those, really only giving up 16 points. And I don't know, just to me, it was an overall good effort. But we do have to talk about one of the defensive players, Myles Brown.
Do we have to?
Oh, yeah, we do. Well, he took out your favorite player, so I know you got feelings about this.
I was expecting him to be in
do.
black tonight in mourning.
Yeah.
For those who are listening to the show, you could have seen my eyes roll.
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty
YouTube
sure
form.
they could hear. They could have heard that aggressive eye roll from your microphone.
Good.
But all jokes aside, in all sincerity, Chris Streveler getting hurt out for the year at least, tearing 3 of his 4 ligaments in his knee. We never like to see that.
No,
don't like to see any kind of injuries to players at all, especially, a guy who actually means so much to the league. Yeah, he's a cult hero in Winnipeg, but a guy like that, you can do so much with marketing the CFL. And he, by all accounts, is a great ambassador of the league. So to lose a guy like that, like, you never want to see that.
Well, and yes, we bought that Strevy cameo for Steve as a joke, but Chris was very excited to talk CFL in that video.
Yeah.
And he is a very good ambassador for the league. And how often do you see a backup quarterback marketed as a major signing besides him? They just posted a picture of a fur coat and a cowboy hat, and people in Winnipeg went nuts.
Yeah. And Lord knows I have made my feelings on Chris Streveler known on this show for several years now. I'm not going to get into that side of it. You never want to see a guy get hurt. I don't care if it's my worst enemy or my favorite player. I want to see best on best. And while I don't feel like that includes Chris Streveler, I do want to see guys stay healthy. You don't want to see it. And you don't want to see a guy go down with, was it 3 torn ligaments in his knee?
3 ligaments, yeah.
That's a long rehab. We're watching Nick Chubb down in the NFL. He's still bouncing back from was that an opening week injury of similar nature with his knee. It's it's tough to see, and you hope he bounces back. And I may hate the guy, but he's good for the league. That's the nicest thing I'll ever say.
So let's go with the hit itself. Initial contact made above the knee, and then, of course, Myles Brown wraps him up at the knee, causing the injury. Roughing the passer was called. I'm torn on it because initial contact was above the knee, which makes it a legal hit. So I understand why the league would call it a penalty, especially after Wade Miller basically went off the way that he did last week about the Myles Brown hit on Zach Claros, which was rightfully called and fined. But I don't really think this was a penalty. Did it look that way to you on TV, Greg?
No. First of all, Wade Miller basically set the guardrails for the refs all game. They were out there looking for it. Two, that play call, I don't know why Winnipeg made that play call. Like, you were setting your quarterback up for disaster with that play call, because that line's going to burst through. And the reason why Brown went down the way he did, low like that, or lower than he probably should have, is because he was being held. So I said this a few times. What was Myles Brown supposed to do in that situation?
Well, he was being blocked into him, right?
Yeah, it's not like he can just give himself up and go to the ground and then oh, he made a play on Strevler. We'll call that a hit and we're good to go. Flags. At this point, we're playing flag football. I like Zach from Bonfire, but he's like, well, yes, his initial contact was above the knee, but it hit the blow, which is illegal. It's same as if you hit a guy in the shoulder and you carry through his head. I'm like, no, dude, gravity. There's a complete difference.
Yeah.
If you're going up through, that's on purpose. Gravity brings you down.
I think people want to punish the result as opposed
100%.
to the actual incident, right? We started off. That's why I started off by saying about the injury. Nobody wants to see it. It's unfortunate. It really is, because nobody wants that to happen. You don't go out there unless you're Garrett Marino and try to purposely injure somebody. These players are not going out there purposely to try and do this. But at the same time, Myles Brown has taken out 3 quarterbacks this year. That is fact. First one, Drew Brown against Ottawa. Again, not his fault. Got blocked, jumping over a block and got kind of cut. And that was a bad thing. That overall just sucked for Drew Brown. There was no malicious intent.
No.
I can't defend the Zach Claros one because he was headhunting and he got rightfully flagged for it, got rightfully fined for it. That should have been the end of it, of course, because of the rivalry. It won't be.
Oh, it's not. Believe me, it wasn't.
But then this one, again, I don't think there was any malicious intent at all. He's trying to get after the quarterback. That is literally his job. And he hit him originally in the right spot. Hit him in the thigh.
And he probably would have hit him higher if it wasn't for carrying a lineman on his back.
Yeah. So, but that is fact. He has taken out 3 quarterbacks, and that's what people are going to focus on. Is he a dirty player? Or does he just do dirty things?
I don't think he does dirty things. I think it's more of a series of really, really bad luck. Like the Brown hit, bad luck. Yeah, you can ding him for the Claros hit. This one, bad luck. He is a guy that plays hard in a physical sport where if you don't go 100%, unless your name is Nick Marshall, you don't get paid. So, I don't. His job is to hit the quarterback. His job is to be clean in hitting the quarterback. But when you're getting taken down low and being held, you're still going to try to do your job. If he gave up, 100% there'd be Rider fans talking about how he needs to be put on the first plane out of town because he's soft and doesn't want to play. Like, I haven't, since the Chris Streveler news came out, I have not been on social media. I 100% guarantee two things. One, there's probably someone in my notifications right now, and that you and I know who I'm talking about. And two, someone is probably saying that Brown should be out as long as Streveler, because that's what these people want. They want basically eye for an eye, and that's not how this works.
I have a hard time with this whole scenario. Yes, he took out 3 quarterbacks. We've watched it. We talked about this last week after the Caleros hit when people were already starting to call him dirty. To compare Myles Brown to a guy like Garrett Marino is absolutely absurd. This is not a guy that's going headhunting. You haven't seen a hit at all that really was intentional and rough. Even the hit on Zach Caleros in Labor Day was not, how do you word this? There was intent in my opinion, but it wasn't rough. And to say he took out 3 quarterbacks is wrong. We all know Caleros was likely able to come back, and they sat him because they had a big lead. There's no question in my mind at this point, given how he was there at practice number 1 for this previous week. He's going to have a problem escaping this now. Anytime he's even close to a questionable hit, he's going to hear about it, and it sucks because he has been a great player, and there hasn't been that intent. We're not seeing a guy that's going out looking to take heads off.
You can argue Labor Day was dumb but not malicious. Like, I think he just basically meant to show Caleros, hey, I'm here, get the ball out sooner, and it just, because it's Winnipeg and it's Wade Miller needs a camera to talk to, that's how it got amplified.
I'm assuming we're probably going to see a fine again for Myles Brown this week, coming out of that, just for hitting the quarterback low. That's what the CFL will do. But now he's rightfully or wrongly, he's going to have a reputation around the league. But at the same time, there's a guy like Brady Oliveira who stand-up person. Maybe he was just saying it to the reporters, to the cameras after the game, but he said it was a clean hit. And it was just unfortunate. And that's the stance that I take on it. I agree with him 100%. Whether he means that or not, or if he's just doing the say the right things in the media, I don't know. But that's kind of where I land on it.
I don't think he's just trying to say that. I think Brady, if he wanted to pull any line, it would be the bomb. He'd follow Wade Miller's lead. Hell, Suter was that is probably the most. How do I put this? Like,
I heard he was unbearable.
He was, and I'm no fan. Like, I know there's a lot of guys out there that hate, like a lot of people out there that hate Suits, and I'm indifferent to him. He's kind of an institution. He's there. I listen to him. I don't listen to him, but like, he went out of his way to do a drive-by on Brown. Like, he was like basically saying like the league needs to look at me if he should be in the league and stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa. And they're showing the replay. And, it's obvious he went low. And I'm like, you're obviously not watching the replay with the guy on his back. That is the most adamant I've seen him talk about any player being dirty. In my entire time watching him on CFL and TSN, I just could not believe it.
All right. Well, 0-6-1 for the Riders in the last 7 games. We kind of alluded to this, but I have a couple questions for you guys. Is this a bad football team?
No. Based on the rest of the teams in the West, no, they're a mediocre football team because they're pretty much everyone else in the West is a crappy record.
I don't even think they're a bad football team. I think they're somewhere in the middle. And I know you hate this saying, I think they're better than their 0-6-1 stretch. They're not in the standings, but I think the team that we will see come the end of the season is better than this stretch that we're in right now. So I'll word it in a way that maybe you can live with, Alex.
All right.
I don't think they're a bad team. You're not going to lose 2, 3, 4 point games to your top tier teams as a bad football team. You're not going to be in every game of the season if you're a bad football team. They're just not good yet.
Whereas at the beginning of the year, they were getting all the bounces.
Mhm.
Right now, all the bounces are going against them. So they took advantage of them now. Obviously, can't do that now, and the bounces are going the other way. I mean, a game here or there, but 7? Like, Greg, you said it earlier, it's mental with these guys now. And I think that's especially for the returning players that were here the last couple of years. They're like, oh my God, not again. Like, are you kidding me? And like, were our expectations too high after
Yes.
the wedding and the honeymoon with Corey Mace when they started 5-1? Because they weren't blowing the lids off, these games. They were winning close, tight games. And now they're not. So, yeah, maybe we did have expectations too high.
There's a saying that losing is contagious, and I think that's the problem right now. Like I said, I think it's in their heads. Like, they're losing, they're trying to change it, and they're doing too much, and they just need to be. If I want to get in with my flower child, inner flower child, just be in the moment, be in the game. Quit trying to do too much, and it will come. But right now, it seems they're all in panic mode the minute they're down, and they're forcing mistakes.
And I think the moment they figure it out and they put that first win back on the board, you're going to see a very quick turnaround. You're seeing it happen in Winnipeg right now. They started off horrendous and suddenly are on a 5-game winning streak. You look at Edmonton. Now, theirs is obviously more of a coaching change at the top that has helped flip things around. But again, you start off, was it 0-7?
0-7.
And 0-7, and now they're right in the thick of the playoff run.
They're
So
only 1 point back of us.
yeah, all it takes is that one win, and it's they're on a bye week now. Hope they can kind of take that stretch, get that relaxed feeling back, and come out of the gate after the bye with a win in Calgary. All it takes is one win, and I think this team is back on track. They just got to get that first.
Would we feel this way if the team had the exact same record as they do now, 5-7-1, but started out maybe 3-3 or 3-4 in the first part of the season?
I don't think it'd be so doomsday, because right now everyone is having flashbacks of the previous 2 seasons. I think if they win 1, lost 2, win 2, lost 1, if they kept on going back and forth like that, I think people would feel a little bit better.
Danny Barrett.
But exactly, like, how many of those seasons did we live through?
Oh my God! Starting out 0-3 and then ripping off 4 straight, then losing 4 straight. That was a roller coaster of a.
That's right. That's Rider football, baby.
Then finish at 9-9.
Exactly, and then make a miracle run at the West semifinal and blow it in the West final.
Hey, 9-9 would feel real good right about now.
Hey, a win after Labor Day would feel great right now.
Let's start low, I guess, right?
Just to kind of wrap up the Banjo Bowl before we move on here. First off, I want to thank everybody who joined us on the Piffles podcast bus trip out there. It was a lot of fun. It was very early. It was a very long day. So thanks for doing that. And by all accounts, it sounds like everybody had a blast. And I think the fact that this was a close game definitely helped. This was a much more lively ride home than it has been the last couple years. And I think that had a lot to do with it. And thanks to the Bomber fans. Honestly, they were great to us. At the tailgates, they were great. Yeah, you got the chirps, go back to Regina. Riders suck. Of course, you're going to get that all the time. That's fine.
And a lot of booze.
Yeah, a lot of booze. BOOS, and of course the other stuff too. very few people in the stands at the game were jerk-offs. Very, very few. So it was overall, I think it was a very pleasant experience, which, I mean, probably a close game sure helps, not when it's 51-6 and you get all the a-holes trying to find you. So I think it was just a fun trip. So thanks to everyone for joining this. We'll do it again next year and we'll have a blast. But I said this to Steve. I think it might have been on the way home. And Greg, I mentioned this to you before we hit record here. In the stadium, it really felt like it was a lack of banjo in the Banjo Bowl. Steve, I think you said they played Deliverance once. I don't remember that. But there was very little banjo. It wasn't about the Banjo Bowl. There was no Banjo Bowl mention. Like it was gone. And I saw social media all week leading up and following Labor Day rematch. They didn't call it the Banjo Bowl. It was Labor Day rematch. Was it like that on the broadcast? Because I haven't gone back and watched the game because I'm not going to do that.
Well, you were telling me that, and I'm like, no, like TSN was completely playing it up, including strings in and out of the breaks, and anyone with their banjo, like oversized cardboard banjos, are showing them constantly. Like
only a couple of stands, honestly, only a couple.
Like if that's a thing coming from the league, TSN missed the memo. That being said, I wonder if the Riders have gotten Bombers to like kind of knock it off, because I know the Rider brass hates that name.
Well, the Riders will never mention it as the Banjo Bowl. They always call it the Labor Day rematch. But coming from a league level, like this feels like it was directed by the league, and there was nothing in game about it by the Bombers. So that's why I was a little bit not confused, but just interesting.
And I wonder if a lot of that has to do with the fact that the league is selling the Labor Day weekend branding. And if you are never, ever going to mention it and just call that one game the Banjo Bowl, which is the game that was also on CTV, the first game they did on CTV in like 30 years.
Yeah.
Or almost 40 years, I guess. And I'm just wondering, maybe that was the mandate. Like, we do not want this to be called the Banjo Bowl. This is the Labor Day rematch. We've got OK Tire. They paid a lot of money. Do not call it that. But like I said, TSN might have missed the memo, because they definitely did not stop calling it that.
And I do wonder if a big part of it was their desire to have that whole Super Saturday Labor Day rematch weekend. I realized that Toronto and Hamilton didn't go head to head again, but to have that, at least that, that Super Saturday, and try and give it the whole day its own theme rather than just this one game, because it did feel substantially different. There wasn't that, outside of the fans. The fans were still fully on board the Banjo the Banjo Bowl Express. It definitely felt like they've kind of sidestepped that a little bit this season, at least.
Well, we'll see how they do it going forward. One more thing with the Riders here on the opening kickoff. They did sign an O-lineman last week. Tariq Stewart started the season with the Elks. So, again, more depth on that O-line, which, hey, no injuries on the O-line this week. And with the bye week, who knows if we're going to get any healthy bodies back next week. So, but they're holding their own. Honestly, I'm not upset about. I wrote a piece on it last week about how the coaching staff, Edwin Harrison, the O-line coach, and even Mark Mueller, as much as some of his play calling I'm not a big fan of, a lot of it is actually pretty good. But the coaching that they've done to allow this O-line to hold up and just hang on has been pretty excellent. So
my boy Fur stepped in really good on center this week. He looked a lot better after a week of practice.
Yeah, you can tell he definitely had the reps and felt a little bit more comfortable at center than he did last week, or the week before. Sorry. So
at some point we got to start getting guys back, right?
I hope so.
There has to be at least a couple that are close to coming back. The fact that we're sitting on our 12th or 13th starting offensive lineman and still looking good in the process, which is absurd to me. We have to start getting some of these guys back. Pray to God we get at least a couple after the bye week.
Yeah, let's hope so. Well, that's the opening kickoff presented by Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty. Let's jump to our Churchill Brewing Company odds and end zones. We're going to talk still more Rider stuff here coming up, but focusing on some things outside of the Riders across the league this week. Chad Kelly absolutely sucked through four interceptions and lost a fumble, 2 pick sixes to former Rider Damon Webb. So it was nice to see Chad Kelly suck. That was great. But to me, it's about that locker room in Toronto. Darius Pickett, now on Ottawa, basically called out Chad Kelly after the game, says he was seeing ghosts. This was the guy that we saw in the East final last year, his former teammate, which makes me question, how is that locker room in Toronto with Chad Kelly back?
I think it's a few things in that locker room. This offseason, the Argos lost a lot of vets. And whether that is Chad Kelly being toxic, and Pickett also took shots at Dinwiddie as well. So Corey Mace leaving and some guys coming here and just being spread amongst the league, I think, that locker room isn't as hunky-dory as they wish it was.
Yeah, you're not taking a shot like Pickett did, even if it is a former teammate, unless there's some kind of issue there stemming from last season. I love to see it. I hope nothing but misery for that locker room as long as Chad Kelly is employed by the Argos. So it's good, despite some saying he was the best quarterback on the field last week, and he was the best fantasy quarterback.
That's what it was. He was the best fantasy quarterback.
But it's not good when you throw 5 touchdown passes and 40% of them are to the other team.
The CFL, out of the blue, decides, pardon me, we're going to rebrand our All-Stars, naming them All-Stars, to All CFL. Probably just to keep up with the NFL, calling the NFL, they don't call them NFL All-Stars, they call them All Pros. So now the CFL All-Stars are going to be called All CFL players, and Division All-Stars will be Division All CFL. So instead of, let's say, I don't know,
Roland Milligan,
sure. Being West Division All-Star. No, Roland Milligan is going to be a West Division All CFL. I don't really understand what this means because it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't change anything. And I'm just wondering why. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Can you guys make sense of this?
The league solved a problem that no one knew we had. Like it blew my mind. It made no sense to me, and just to drop it like that. All I know is we're going to discover how specific the wording in CFL contracts are. Anyone expecting an all-star bonus might we'll see if they get one this year.
Some guys might not get $5,000.
It didn't say all CFL. Sorry, I don't understand the point, because it's a word. Who cares? All-star. Everyone knows what an all-star is. I'm trying to explain what an all CFL is. It's like what the NFL does. Okay, why are we being like the NFL? Like I don't get it.
Outside of your Pro Bowlers in the NFL, every other all-star is an all-star. NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball. It's a consistent term, and this looks like solving a problem that really didn't exist. There was no need for this. I don't get it. I don't understand it. In fact, to me, it makes it more complicated. Just leave it how it was, and there's a whole lot of problems you can work on fixing long before All-Star versus All CFL.
Well, and if you're going to rebrand it, just wipe the whole thing and change it. Get rid of the divisions. Have a first team, second team. What's the point of even have a West All CFL? Well, you're not really. You're all called an All West, All East. Then, like, it's just I I put more thought into it right now than they probably did when they decided to do it.
And what West Division teams get hosed with
Yeah,
with
5
all-star
teams.
selections because you have 5 teams against 4 in the East. So just go with 2 all-star teams. All-star 1, all-star 2, whatever. You're on the second team, all-star team. Whatever. Doesn't matter. They do that in other leagues as well, too. NBA does that. Your first team all-star, your second team all-star. Just change for the sake of change is very on brand for the CFL. There's so many things that they could be doing differently in other aspects of what they do. You can get us standings from pre-2007 on your website. You can get us some stats from pre-2018 on your website. That'd be nice. No, we're going to change All-Stars to All CFL. That'll do something.
That'll hold those little SOBs.
This league sometimes, man, I don't get it.
Actually, I'm surprised they just didn't drop it randomly like the day before that they were going to announce it. Like they dropped the logo at the Grey Cup.
Yeah. I don't know. You guys said it. Fixing a problem that didn't exist. It's just weird to me, that's all. But with no enemy preview this week for the Riders, since they are on that bye week, much needed. What changes? We'll go back to talking to the Riders here. What needs to change for the Riders on the bye week?
They need to get out of their own heads. Like I said, I think 90% of this is mental. I've said this multiple times tonight. I think they've got the players that can win. I don't think putting Jer Stearns in over Keyshawn Johnson or Dante Myers. I know Dante's hurt, but I don't see a roster move that's going to make stuff switch. We need guys to come back. We need a healthy offensive lineman. I don't think we're going to see a healthy AJ this season, unfortunately. But I don't know what changes you're going to make if they can't get out of their own way in close games.
I think the biggest thing that has to come out of this bye week is getting guys off that 6-game injured list. You got to start getting healthy. You got to start getting some of those leaders back on the field. You mentioned AJ. The other big one that I think we're missing that I hope we can see, but I doubt we do, is a Yoshi Hardrick. Just for that calming presence, because right now it's a lot of younger guys out there. And while they have all the talent in the world, they're missing that couple of guys in the huddle that can, simmer things down after a couple of bad plays that I think would make all the difference. You take some of that healthy guy, or get some of those healthy guys back. Sorry, get some of those injured guys back, and it's a whole different season coming out.
I think there needs to be one change, and it's not a roster change. It's not a coaching change. It's a mindset change, because I've been defending this team for the last 6-1 stretch about how close they are, and they are close, yes, but we're hearing the same things over and over from the team. It's just, a couple mistakes here and there, and we got to go back to correcting these. Same thing over and over again. Change something. I don't care what the change is. Win a friggin' game. That's it. The fans want you to win. Do something. The mindset of things are good. We're doing well, but it's just one or two things. I'm not going to compare it to last year because I still think it's different. But last year and the year before, when the team sucked at the end of the year, nobody was mad. Nobody was pissed off about losing. It was just, the guys played hard. I love them, blah, blah, blah. And while we're not getting that this year, nobody's mad. Nobody's pissed off that they're losing. I'm tired of excuses. Every week, there's a different excuse, and it's over and over and over and over, and nothing changes. There has to be something. I don't like I said, I think I said this on the show last week. I don't know what needs to change. I don't think there's any one answer, but it's just the mindset of we are not going to let this happen. And the fans have already tuned out. 6-1, you think people are going to buy tickets to the next home game against Ottawa at the end of the month? Nope. Especially, could you imagine if they come back and lose to Calgary, who sucks this year? Whether it's Jake Mayer or Logan Bonner or whoever ass quarterback they put out.
Bonner's running scout team. It's Schultz.
Tony Stevens, or Matthew Schultz. Honestly, I can see Matthew Schultz starting against us in a couple weeks. He should be the starter in Calgary. That's how bad their quarterback room is. And I like Schultz. I think he can do a hell of a lot better than Jake Mayer. Something they got to be pissed off about losing. This team has gotten too comfortable over the last 3 years with losing. And it can't be that way. Corey Mace needs to get pissed off. He's such a nice guy. And I know that's not his demeanor to go in and yell at guys. I'm not suggesting that he needs to do that. But this team as a whole needs to be mad about losing. And they're not. And whether that starts from the very, very top with Craig Reynolds and goes down, whether it's just from Jeremy O'Day's level and down, whether it's just Corey Mace's level and down, I don't know. But nobody seems mad about losing. The fans aren't even mad about losing anymore. The fans have tuned out. They don't care. That's even worse. There's no emotion. And to me, that's what needs to change is the whole mindset, possibly of the entire organization. We talked all offseason about how we needed a culture change. Yeah, we're getting it. We're starting, to see steps and whatnot. But we're still missing that one about how nobody's pissed off about losing. But it's okay because the Turf Traditions merch line dropped last week. The Rider hoodie that's really nice is $125. The exact same one for BC is $99. The exact same one in Hamilton is $99. So a 25% Rider tax on this. I can see $10, not 25. But it's okay because people will buy it. So who cares? Why would we care? I know that's another rant that I'm kind of mixing in there. Jeez, I sound
Yeah,
like
you are, because I was.
All right,
I was-
you keep
because
going.
I-
This is good.
I'm mixing up my rants here. Sounds like somebody who doesn't have a radio show anymore. But it's just somebody needs to be mad in that organization about losing, and we're not seeing it.
I agree, but let me play devil's advocate here. Are we asking too much year one of a rebuild? Let's face it, this is a rebuild. This
Is
team,
it though?
It is.
It's a lot of the same players. And you talked about how those players were there for the last couple of years. They're back this year.
You can't do no one does a full swap like Chris Jones. And I don't think anyone who is sane does a full swap like Chris Jones. And Chris Jones was still doing full swaps this year in Edmonton. That's why he's no longer a head coach. Like it is rare that you can go into an organization and hack it to the bone and turn it around in a year. Like there is going to have to be a process. We are still we're in the final year of Trevor Harris's contract. We don't know if he's here next year. We got AJ Ouellette for another 2 years after this, 1 year after this. Like there's going to be a turnover this coming off season. Like this team, I think Corey Mace got cursed by two things. One, he came in a house of fire with a different mindset, supposedly, than the previous guy. Everyone was sick of the "oh shucks, I love him" talking out both sides of his mouth. And Corey Mace came in, felt like a breath of fresh air. And then the team went on a bit of a run at the beginning of the season, which sent everyone's expectations to the roof. Now that they've kind of reset reality, yeah, and you're right. There's a lot of fans going, "Here we go again. They're not going to win all year. Let's put in Shea Patterson because Trevor Harris doesn't have it." Oh my God. We just saw Shea Patterson for 6 games. He's not the answer either. I trust Trevor Harris to win more games than Shea Patterson does. And if you do want to see what Shea Patterson's got for the remainder of the year, then yes, right off this rest of the season. But my God, people, take things in stride.
I feel like we should have higher expectations, just given how the season started. I realize it's a rebuild, but there's no excuse for 0-6-1 in a 7-game stretch.
Oh, I agree with you on that.
We're not Edmonton at the beginning of the year bad. We're not Hamilton bad. We're not even Calgary bad, and they've won in that stretch. This is a fan base and a team that needs to be better. Sorry, a team that needs to be better for the fan base. Because there's no reason for fans to get excited. There's no. You said we were getting complacent, and this is just an expectation now. These losses. That's part of the problem. Is there is no growth. There is no upward motion. We're just losing again.
Okay, so here I got this question for you. If Jacoby Myers does not get that roughing the passer penalty, and we win that game, it was McLean. Sorry, yes,
in Ottawa,
in Ottawa, and we win that game, so we have that win there. Are we still feeling the same way? If we don't lose if we block that kick instead of it going through the end zone for the single, or the Rouge doesn't exist and we go in overtime and win that game against Toronto, does your opinion change on that one game? Like, yes, we haven't won, but they have been in every game, and that has to count for something. We're not getting our doors blown out like Calgary is. We're not. Yeah, Hamilton's won some games, but they've lost a lot where it's embarrassing.
You say that has to count for something. It counts for nothing. Close games and $2 will still get you a cup of coffee.
Agreed.
I understand.
At some point, they have to win, and until they do, they are not.
We're
no
what
change.
the Elks were to start the season.
Yep.
Yes, and
It's
they
as
turned it
simple as that.
around, and so
They
can
were
we.
close. They were losing games by 3-4 points, 1 point. Doesn't matter. They lost.
I understand, but that's my point. A bounce here and there, they'll be back in it. My point is, I've got people saying, let's burn the season down because this team just can't win. And to me,
I wouldn't go that far.
No, absolutely not.
That is garbage. This team has something. They just need to, right now, and we've said this multiple times, they need to get out of their own way. The biggest rival this team has right now, it's itself. It's not the guy across the field from them. It is in their own head. They're like just blowing simple plays because they're overthinking it. They need to get up early, get a good, and just like lay the beats to a team early and just coast and just stop thinking about it and just win. But right now, if it's a close game, I don't trust these guys from coming back from 2 points because I know someone's going to look ahead when they should be catching the ball, and then it's an interception because that's just the way they're playing right now.
They've got Calgary twice. They've got BC. They've got Edmonton, and they've got Ottawa. 5 games left. The 2 games against Calgary and probably the Edmonton, to me, are must wins.
Yep.
When you look at the standings, I don't think there's any way they catch Winnipeg. I don't think there's any way they catch BC. BC still has 4 of their final 5 games at home. Their only road game is here. So with the way Nathan Rourke's playing and then inside the dome, I don't see the Riders catching them. Can't see them passing Winnipeg because Winnipeg has back-to-back against Edmonton. Could Edmonton win one of those games? Yeah, maybe. I don't see Edmonton winning both. And that's what the Riders would need to get, a home playoff game. I don't think that's going to happen. So you're basically hoping to hold off Edmonton for 3rd place because there may not be a crossover this year unless Toronto just keeps slumping away, which I wouldn't be upset about. They just got to win, man. Just we can't be looking at other teams' schedules. We can't be playing the Rider math that we see every single year play out. Just win a game. That's it. It comes down to that. Because I do think that much is the same thing at the start of the year. You win one game, you're going to win a bunch of games. You're going to win a solid group of games. And it's not like that 5-game stretch, honestly, is very hard coming up to end the year. Yeah, you got BC, but it's at home. So there's a bit of an equalizer. You have Ottawa, who's a good team, but it's at home. So a bit of an equalizer, hopefully. And then you got home and home with Calgary and in Edmonton. So I think there's some very winnable games. You just got to go out and do it. Well, only 3 games this week. So let's get to our picks. Let's get to the Piffles picks.
Piffles picks.
Well, folks, when you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time.
I'm
Steve,
telling you
this
right now
is-
that this is going to be the easiest Piffles picks you guys are ever
We're
going to see.
probably all going to be on the same boat here. Steve,
Alex,
you're
Did you
on
notice
another-
how close in the standings I am to you now? 5 games.
5 games.
Hey,
That's not
it was like
close.
9 games 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah, I know. Another 3 and 1. You only picked up 1 game on me. Greg had a bad week,
Fine.
1 and 3.
how many weeks are
Um,
left? 1 game is all it takes.
Yeah, there's only 3 games, and I'm gonna let you pick, and I'm gonna pick the exact same. So you won't pick up any games on me this week.
Game theory.
That's right.
Good old game theory.
So 3 games this week. We start out with Toronto at BC. I'll take a stab at this one with the spread, the opening spread. I think it's BC by 6.5.
Yeah, I'd say by 7.5.
4.5.
I already have my picks written down, so you guys can. I'm not going to change them. I know exactly what I'm picking.
I'm
You
on
guys
BC.
can-
I think we all do.
Yeah.
I'm taking BC no matter what that spread was.
Ottawa at Hamilton again. I think all 3 of us will be on the same on this one. Steve, do you want to take a guess at the spread on this one?
I'm gonna go minus 5.5.
For Ottawa, I assume.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
I will say 4.5.
Told you this one's going to be easy.
Yep. I'll take Ottawa to cover that easily.
Yep, Ottawa by a lot more.
I think the only one I got right was Hamilton, wasn't it? So, but I'm taking Ottawa to cover.
And the final game this week, Montreal at Calgary. Montreal coming off a big loss at home. That hasn't happened a lot lately over the last, 16 games, only 2 losses in that stretch, whatever it is, 14-1 or 14-2 now, 15-2, whatever it is. I'm going to assume Montreal's favored by, well, now that Jake Mayer's back, should only be about 8.5.
With Jake Mayer back, it should be 26.5. God, he's been.
Probably pick Montreal.
I'll go 7.5.
I told you this was going to be easy. Another 4.5.
Wow.
How?
All 3
Okay.
games are 4.5.
Wow.
Wow, they got
right.
lazy.
I'm on Montreal.
Montreal has moved to 6.5 at some spots, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
open up
give me
4.5.
Montreal.
Oh yeah, like we're all on it. Like all the chalk. This one's all chalk this week. It's I don't see any of these games being close. Hamilton maybe. Hamilton might surprise Ottawa, but that's about it.
I think Hamilton keeps it close, but Ottawa still covers a 4.5 spread.
And it's good to see Jalen Acklin coming back after what we saw in the Edmonton game and on our little road trip. Also, who would have had Ottawa as the potential second team to clinch a playoff spot? They can clinch this weekend with a win. How?
They have bought in to what Bobby Dice is selling. They really have. They're playing. And what's so good about Ottawa is that they're winning at home. With how apathetic their fans were, with how pathetic the team was at home, to see them turn that around quickly this year and be, I think they're still unbeaten at home. I don't have the standings in front of me, but I think they're
unbeaten. We got the tie. Like they're not on a full winless streak, but yeah, they're
no, but yeah, they've. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. If you can take care of business at home and win half your games on the road, like that's a good season, and that's kind of where Ottawa's at right now. So kudos to them for buying in on Coach Bobby Dice, and Drew Brown, like I said, has given that team that little extra something. I don't think it's flair, but it's something, just a belief that they haven't had in a long, long time. So it's good to see teams. You want to see teams win at home. ultimately that's good for the game, for the growth of the game. You want people in the stadium, and that's how you get them there, is by having a winning team at home. So it is good. Let's just hope they lose that September 28th game when they come here. That's all.
They can have all their home wins. Fine.
But with the Riders on a bye, honestly, I'm on the side of maybe if you can stick around, get in some extra film work, whatever. I think with the way this team is right now, everybody that can get away from the game should get away. Take that week off. I hope these guys are going out and just going home, seeing family, whatever, and just come in. Sure, go bowling, as long as it's not a team sanctioned event. I don't care. Just get that mind right, coming back, fresh mindset. And if they can come back and put on the hard hats and, show us what we saw to start the year, then good things will happen. But
get healthily, both physically and mentally, this week off. That's what they need.
So hopefully that's what we see out of the Riders. And we'll look ahead to that Montreal game, to that Calgary game next week here on the Piffles podcast. But that'll do it this week. Piffles podcast is brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive in Regina. Special thanks, of course, to Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty and Churchill Brewing Company for their support making this show possible. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcasts, watching on SaskTel Max TV on demand, watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, all that good stuff. This is Ghost Behind Your Mind by Tyler Gilbert.
The ghost